Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into the Ice Age. Picture yourself trudging through a dark, chilling cave, the temperature so low that every breath feels like inhaling shards of ice. You might think you could hack it, but trust me, you probably won't survive this. From the freezing cold to the constant threat of predators, every minute in this cave would feel like an eternity. But before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and don't forget to post where you're watching from and what time it is in your neck of the woods. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into the icy void of the Ice Age cave, and the first thing you notice is the cold. It's like nothing you've ever felt before. The temperature outside hovers around minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but inside the cave, it feels even colder. You can feel the moisture from the frozen air seeping into your skin, and before you know it, your breath is turning into visible ice crystals in the air. The cold isn't just uncomfortable, it's a constant, suffocating presence that slowly gnaws away at your strength. Historians often argue about just how cold it got back then. Some believe temperatures plummeted even further than we thought, reaching bone-chilling lows of minus 60 or even colder. But one thing is for sure, the cold was relentless. Without modern clothing, insulation, or heating, you'd struggle to keep even the smallest part of your body from freezing. Every step you take feels like you're dragging your feet through thick snow, and the air is so thin that it seems to slice through your lungs with every breath. As you make your way deeper into the cave, you realize that the cold isn't just an inconvenience, it's a death sentence. Without proper shelter, you could freeze within hours. And it's not just you. Everyone around you would feel it. The cave's walls seem to loom ominously, each breath of air colder than the last, and you begin to understand just how fragile survival is in this frozen world. Remember that biting cold from the first section? It's still there, gnawing at you, but now it's joined by something equally unsettling: the dark. The cave, as you explore deeper, offers no escape from the pitch-black void surrounding you. There's no moonlight seeping in, no friendly firelight flickering in the distance. It's an abyss that swallows you whole. Your eyes strain, but there's no sense of light to help guide you. It's as if the cave is alive, and its cold breath presses against you with every step. In the Ice Age, people didn't have modern torches or lanterns. Historians still debate whether early humans used primitive tools to create fire inside caves, or if they relied on the fleeting daylight outside to navigate. Either way, the darkness here is complete, suffocating. You can't see the walls, the floor, or even your own hands. The darkness is so thick that it feels like it's pressing against your chest, making it harder to breathe. But the darkness isn't just an inconvenience, it's a trap. You try to shuffle your feet forward, but every step feels uncertain, like you're walking on fragile ice, unsure of what dangers lie ahead. Your heart races as you imagine what could be lurking in the shadows: a hungry predator, a sudden drop in the ground, or worse, another person suffering from the same confusion and fear. It's not just the cold that'll get you, it's the disorienting, claustrophobic void that threatens to swallow your sense of self. The deeper you venture into the cave, the more aware you become of just how isolated you are. Without light, you can't even find your bearings, let alone set up a safe place to rest. Your body shivers involuntarily, not just from the cold, but from the overwhelming fear that comes with the utter lack of visibility. Every creak of stone sounds like a distant echo, and your mind plays tricks on you, filling the silence with every imagined sound you've ever feared. You're not just fighting the cold now, but the suffocating uncertainty of being completely blind in a hostile environment. At this point, your survival instincts kick in. You begin to second-guess every movement, as if every tiny sound or shift could signal something dangerous. You start to feel how easy it is to lose your bearings, lose your mind, and maybe even lose your life. The darkness might have rattled you, but now it's the hunger that starts to creep in. You realize just how dire your situation is. Without food, your body will weaken and fast. Your stomach growls, a reminder of how little sustenance you'll find in this frozen wasteland. The Ice Age wasn't a place of abundance. You're stuck in a cave with no farmable crops or even simple snacks like berries. The landscape around you is barren, a world where only the hardiest of creatures survived. Historians still argue about what early humans ate in such conditions. Some believe they were primarily hunters, stalking large game like mammoths and bison. Others argue they foraged for whatever they could find, from roots to grasses, or even the occasional scavenged carcass. Whatever the diet, one thing is clear: food was far from plentiful. Your body starts to crave something, anything, that could fuel your survival. But all you have are the remnants of whatever your ancestors could gather or hunt. And nothing in the cave suggests food is readily available. You think back to the wild tales you've heard of people living off raw meat and unprocessed plants. Perhaps, if you were lucky, you could stumble upon an animal carcass left behind by a predator. But the chances are slim. Even if you find some dried meat, it's tough, dry, and far from palatable. You'd have to chew through it relentlessly, your teeth aching with each bite. It's a harsh reality. Without tools, cooking, or even the luxury of salt, this food wouldn't do much to satisfy your hunger. You wonder, how long can you keep this up before your body starts to shut down? But hunger isn't your only challenge. Your body needs more than food. It needs water. The bitter cold of the cave means that even if you were near a water source, chances are it's frozen solid. You're dehydrated, and you're beginning to feel it. Your mouth is dry. Your throat scratchy. The lack of moisture makes every breath feel like a rasping effort. And there's no real way to get water here. Snow is available, yes, but eating snow can actually lower your body temperature, exacerbating the problem. You'd need a way to melt it, assuming you could find fire, which, as we've already discussed, is far from guaranteed. At this point, the survival clock is ticking against you. Hunger, dehydration, and the cold are wearing you down, slowly but surely. The situation is bleak, and you begin to realize just how fragile your existence is in these brutal, inhospitable conditions. Now, let's talk about the real dangers that lurk outside of your fragile shelter. You might have thought the worst was over, but you've only just begun to face the true peril of this world. Above all else, there's one thing you can't ignore: the predators. The Ice Age wasn't a peaceful time. It was a survival of the fittest environment, where creatures like saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, and dire wolves prowled the land. And they weren't just some far-off myth or story passed down through generations. They were the very real threat to your survival. Historians debate the exact nature of these creatures' interactions with humans. Some believe early humans were skilled hunters, banding together in packs to bring down large prey like mammoths and mastodons. Others argue that humans were mostly scavengers, stealing kills from larger predators. Regardless, one thing is certain: these animals weren't afraid of you, and they weren't shy about making you their next meal. Every sound now becomes a threat. The howling wind outside, the creaking of the cave's walls, the rustle of the few remaining scraps of clothing you have, everything seems to echo in your mind, sending waves of paranoia through your veins. You can't let your guard down for a second. There's a constant, underlying fear that the moment you step outside that cave, you'll encounter one of these beasts. You imagine the chilling screech of a saber-toothed cat as it pounces, its razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the moonlight. Or perhaps a pack of wolves, silently moving in the snow, their eyes glowing as they circle closer, waiting for the right moment to strike. Your instincts scream at you to stay inside, but that doesn't mean you're safe. These creatures were everywhere, and they had the upper hand. Without weapons, without the knowledge of modern survival techniques, you're outmatched, outgunned, and out of luck. But it's not just the large predators that pose a danger. The smaller threats, like venomous insects or even disease-carrying parasites, could easily sneak past your defenses. Imagine being bitten by an unseen insect, feeling the slow creep of an infection taking hold. Your weakened body, already struggling with the cold and lack of food, would have no way to fend off such a threat. And without medicine, it's just a waiting game. The elements, the predators, the parasites, everything is stacked against you. Survival is not just about fighting or hunting, it's about constant vigilance. It's the struggle to protect yourself from unseen dangers, to avoid being caught off guard. Even if you manage to find food and stay out of reach of the predators, the harsh environment and the constant threat of the wild would drain you mentally and physically. At this point, you begin to feel the weight of your isolation. The Ice Age wasn't just physically harsh, it was mentally brutal. For early humans, living in such extreme conditions meant enduring not only the elements, but also the constant threat of danger without any support. You begin to understand how difficult it must have been for those ancient people to maintain their sanity in such a grim, unyielding world. Historians still argue over how early humans coped with their isolation in the Ice Age. Some suggest that humans likely lived in small, tight-knit groups, using social bonds and shared knowledge to survive. Others propose that solitude was far more common, with people scattered across the land, relying only on their wits and instincts. Either way, isolation was a major psychological burden. You, trapped in the darkness of this cave, start to experience that same sense of loneliness. There are no luxuries here, no family or friends to speak to, no warmth from a fire or the comfort of a soft bed. The only sound you hear is the howling wind outside and your own breathing, which seems louder now than ever before. The walls of the cave feel like they're closing in, and it's hard not to feel completely alone. Your mind begins to wander, filled with thoughts of the outside world, a world so distant that it might as well be a dream. The thoughts of family, home, and the warm sun become fleeting memories, almost too painful to recall. But perhaps the worst part of this isolation is the mental toll it takes. The longer you're stuck in the cave, the more you begin to doubt your ability to survive. You wonder, what's the point of fighting for another day when every moment feels like a battle? Your morale weakens, and that can be just as dangerous as the cold or the predators lurking outside. Depression is a real enemy in this unforgiving world, and it's one that's impossible to escape. There's no one here to encourage you, to remind you why you should keep pushing forward. The silence is deafening, and it's eating away at your resolve. And the cave itself offers no comfort, only more cold, more dark, more risk. It's a harsh environment that leaves no room for error. You start to feel like you're living in a world that doesn't care whether you survive or not. But survival doesn't care either. Whether you survive or perish in this cruel world depends entirely on your will to keep fighting, even when your body and mind beg you to stop. As if the cold, hunger, and isolation weren't enough, the environment inside the cave itself is starting to betray you. You've managed to settle into a small corner, huddled as close to the wall as you can, trying to conserve what little warmth your body can generate. But the more time you spend here, the more you realize the cave isn't the safe haven you thought it was. It's unstable, and it's slowly falling apart. Historians are still unsure just how stable the caves were during the Ice Age. Some argue that the cave structures were more resilient, with thick stone walls that could withstand the weight of ice and snow. Others believe that as the temperatures fluctuated, the very ground beneath early humans' feet could have been prone to erosion, collapsing under the pressure of constant freezing and thawing. Either way, the cave is not a reliable shelter. You begin to notice the cracks in the walls, the faint groaning of the stone above you, and the way the temperature shifts, bringing in gusts of icy wind. You know that these caves, though seemingly solid, could cave in at any moment, burying you under tons of rock. The stone underfoot is slick with moisture, and you can feel it seeping through your clothes, your skin growing cold as it reaches your bones. The air is damp, and every breath feels heavy, as though the cave is slowly suffocating you. The cold and the moisture begin to erode everything you have left. Your skin cracks, your lips become chapped and swollen, and your feet start to feel numb. It's a slow, uncomfortable process that chips away at your endurance. Every movement inside the cave feels like a potential disaster waiting to happen. You try to adjust your position, but the rock beneath you shifts, and you hear a deep rumble from the ceiling. For a moment, you freeze. It's as though the very earth is warning you, reminding you just how fragile your situation is. But there's no way out. You can't just leave. The outside world is just as unforgiving, maybe even worse. And as much as you try to reassure yourself that you'll be fine, the reality of the situation sinks in. The cave that once seemed like a refuge is now a ticking time bomb, threatening to collapse around you at any moment. The uncertainty, the constant feeling that you could be crushed by falling rocks, adds another layer of psychological strain to your already difficult survival. You realize that the cave is both a shelter and a death trap, and that no matter how hard you try to make it your home, it's never going to be the safe haven you need. It's becoming painfully clear that survival here isn't just about enduring the cold or avoiding predators. It's about maintaining your health in a world where sickness is rampant and there's no medicine to turn to. Without proper hygiene, disease and infection spread like wildfire, and your chances of survival are slim to none. As you sit, shivering in the dark, you begin to realize that even the smallest cut or scrape could be your undoing. Historians still debate the sanitation practices of early humans. Some suggest that primitive humans had rudimentary methods of cleaning themselves, washing in nearby streams, or using animal fats to protect their skin. But these measures were hardly sufficient for the harsh conditions of the Ice Age. You, with no access to fresh water, no soap, and no means of sterilizing wounds, would have to rely on whatever basic instincts and materials were available. If you were lucky, you might have access to some kind of plant or herb that could be used to treat infection, but these plants would be few and far between in such an inhospitable environment. And there's no guarantee that any of these primitive remedies would work. The reality is grim. An infected wound, no matter how small, could spell your end. A tiny scratch from rough rocks, a scrape from the jagged walls of the cave, or even a bite from a hungry animal could easily lead to sepsis or gangrene. Without the luxury of modern antibiotics, you'd be left to pray that your body could fight off the infection on its own, something that isn't guaranteed. And even if you do manage to avoid infection, the lack of food and water would still take its toll on your immune system. You're fighting a losing battle, and you can feel it slowly draining you of energy. There's no warmth to help you heal, no doctor to consult, no safe place to rest. Your body's natural defenses are compromised by the constant cold and hunger, and every little ache and pain seems to grow exponentially worse. It's not just your physical health at stake, it's your ability to keep your mind intact. The isolation and uncertainty eat away at you, and every small sign of weakness feels like a ticking clock counting down to your inevitable downfall. With every passing hour, your chances of surviving become slimmer. The cold has stolen your strength, the darkness is smothering your will to keep going, and now the sickness has joined the fight. It's not just a matter of getting through the day anymore. It's a fight to stay alive at all. The need for warmth in this frigid environment is beginning to feel like a matter of life or death. It's not just an uncomfortable nuisance. Without warmth, your body's defenses can't function, and the cold will eventually wear you down to nothing. You might have thought that surviving in a cave meant escaping the brutal winds outside, but the truth is that these caves are not nearly as protective as they seem. Cold air seeps in through cracks in the stone, and even with your body pressed tightly against the cave walls, it's impossible to avoid the chill completely. Historians argue whether early humans had mastered the art of fire by the Ice Age or if they were still struggling to figure it out. Some believe that fire was a common fixture in early cave dwellings, a critical survival tool that provided warmth and a way to cook food. Others suggest that fire was more of a rare luxury, something that only the most resourceful could reliably start and maintain. Regardless of whether or not fire was available, there's no denying that it was essential for survival. Without it, your chances of surviving even a single day in the cave are slim. Trying to stay warm without a fire feels like an impossible task. You huddle into yourself, your body trembling uncontrollably from the cold, but it doesn't help much. The lack of warmth makes you feel weaker with every passing hour. You're losing heat rapidly, and no matter how tightly you wrap yourself in whatever furs or materials you can find, it doesn't do enough to stave off the cold that seems to penetrate to your very bones. Even if you manage to create a fire, it's a delicate and fleeting source of warmth. You can't carry it with you, and you can't always rely on it to last long enough to get you through the day. But even if you somehow manage to keep warm, your body is constantly being drained. The cold saps your energy, making even the smallest task feel like an exhausting chore. You can feel the weariness creeping into your bones, the constant struggle to stay alert, to stay alive, pushing you to the brink of collapse. Every breath you take is a reminder that survival in the Ice Age requires more than just willpower. It requires an almost impossible level of endurance. Fire, warmth, shelter. These are the things that make survival possible. Without them, your life becomes a fragile balancing act between life and death. And here, in this cold, isolated cave, that balance seems to be tipping dangerously toward the side of death. As you huddle in the corner of the cave, trying to stave off the relentless cold, you start to feel the cumulative toll of everything you've faced. The hunger, the isolation, the constant battle to stay warm, it's all taking its toll. Your body is stiffening from the cold, and even the smallest movements seem like an effort. The lack of comfort, of rest, of a safe place to lay down and sleep without the fear of predators or collapsing walls is wearing you down more than you realize. Historians still argue about how early humans coped with sleep and rest in such harsh conditions. Some believe that people adapted to sleeping in shifts, staying alert at all times in case predators attacked. Others suggest that sleep was a luxury that only occurred when exhaustion overwhelmed the body. Either way, the sleep you so desperately need is elusive. There is no soft bed here, no pillow to rest your aching head on, no blanket to curl up in for warmth. The ground is hard, the rocks unforgiving, and you can feel the cold seeping into every muscle as you try to rest. Your body grows more fatigued as each hour passes, but sleep, even if you could fall into it, would not be restful. It would be interrupted by the fear of attack, by the constant ache in your bones, by the gnawing hunger that never quite goes away. You try to sleep, but even in the darkness, your mind races. Thoughts of the outside world, of family, of comfort, slip through your consciousness, but fade quickly in the cold, hard reality of the cave. You're exhausted, but your mind refuses to shut down completely. Without proper rest, your mental faculties start to dull. Your ability to think clearly diminishes, and you become more prone to mistakes. The isolation begins to take a psychological toll as well. Without human interaction, without anyone to share your struggles, your fear, your hunger, the mental strain becomes overwhelming. You start to wonder if you'll ever make it out of this cave alive. But there's no one around to reassure you, no one to offer a comforting word or a reminder that things could get better. And even if you could rest and gather your strength, the reality is that the cave offers no true comfort. You can never fully relax, never fully rest, because the very environment around you is working against you. The rock walls could collapse at any moment, the predators could break through the darkness, and the cold, unrelenting wind could find its way inside. It's a place of constant vigilance, of constant struggle. The weight of exhaustion hangs over you, and you begin to wonder how much longer you can endure before your body, or your mind, gives out. The reality of your situation finally starts to sink in. Survival is slipping through your fingers, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Every aspect of life in this Ice Age cave is working against you. The cold, the hunger, the isolation, the constant threat of predators, it all combines into a suffocating weight that you can't escape. You try to gather what little strength you have left, but it feels like your body is betraying you at every turn. There's no reprieve, no moment of relief. Historians often debate whether early humans understood their own mortality in such extreme conditions. Some argue that, given their adaptability and ingenuity, they must have had some sense of their vulnerability. Others claim that the fight for survival was so intense that humans didn't have time to reflect on death. Either way, one thing is certain, Death in the Ice Age came quickly for those who weren't prepared. Whether by freezing to death, succumbing to hunger, or falling victim to predators, the end came for nearly every human who couldn't adapt to the brutal environment. And now, as you sit in the cold, isolated cave, you feel yourself slipping into that same fate. Your body is no longer cooperating. You can feel your limbs becoming heavier, your movements more sluggish, as if your body is finally acknowledging that it can't survive much longer. The hunger gnaws at your insides, but it's become a distant ache, almost secondary to the exhaustion that has seeped into your bones. You can't remember the last time you felt truly warm or had a decent meal or even a restful moment. The days, or perhaps they are weeks by now, blur together in a haze of cold, hunger, and hopelessness. The predators outside, the jagged rocks that could collapse at any moment, the ever-present threat of disease, it all seems so trivial now compared to the weight of the reality you're facing. The greatest enemy is no longer the harsh environment or the wild beasts that roam outside. It's your own body and mind, which have been slowly worn down by this unrelenting struggle. You realize, with a sinking feeling, that the battle is already over. Your chances of survival have dwindled to nothing, and there's nothing you can do to change that. As the cold sets deeper into your bones, you feel yourself fading. The harsh, unforgiving world of the Ice Age is too much for your fragile human form to withstand. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much willpower you summon, the end is inevitable. The cave, which was once a place of hope, has now become your tomb, a reminder of just how fragile life is in a world where survival is a constant battle against the elements. But in these final moments, you can't help but think of one thing. It wasn't supposed to end like this. You didn't come here to die. You came here to survive. But as your eyes begin to close, the darkness seems less frightening, less lonely. The world fades to black, and you finally let go.